You are now tuned in to the From Earth podcast with your host, Julius from Earth. Check us out on any of the major digital streaming platforms or on our website at FromEarthPodcast.buzzsprout.com. And as always, thank you for tapping in.
Wow.
Oh, he definitely did. He snapped.
There we go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, everybody? How y'all feeling?
Yeah, good.
Jury selection right
All
now.
right. All right. Hey, Esso. I know it's been a minute. Do we got to teach you how to pod again?
Yes, please.
man.
Talking to the microphone.
What's pod etiquette?
Talking to the microphone.
Every time this dude go away, man, he forget what we do around
exactly
here, bro.
what we do.
Every time.
But we back. Episode 69 of the From Earth podcast. What's going on, everybody?
Yeah.
This is your host, Julius from Earth, and I'm here with the homie Esoteric
How y'all living?
and the homie B Davis.
What's happening, man?
Y'all, I know y'all see the new digs up in the crib. You know, we in the mansion tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we left the trap house for the evening.
All 650 square feet of it.
we left the trap house. Now we in the now we in the big house.
Yeah.
Now, we apologize for not having an episode last week. We had some technical difficulties.
I ain't apologizing. I had shit to do.
I definitely had shit to do.
So B was in the building, and B was going off. I was going to give people some snippets of what we did have, but I was like, nah, let's hold on to it because we might be able to run it back on this one.
Okay.
But Esso, this guy here, you wanna fill us in?
I don't even know where to start.
On what we had going on, what you had going on?
Left the country.
You want to let the people know you left the country?
Became the new Tinder swindler. Where that landed me was in Miami.
MIA.
Had to ask for a couple of financial loans from a couple of women that I know to fund the operation. No.
We got the new Simon Leviev in the building.
Exactly.
Facts.
So, my dad's a diamond jeweler. He runs all of Africa. No blood diamonds, though. We keep it real.
No blood diamonds.
Right.
Keep it clean.
Keep it clean.
All right, cool.
Nah, cool. I was in Miami, man. It was an incredible time. It's just another level of living that, I mean, if you haven't, I'm sure people who've listened have been there, but when you really see Miami for what it is.
What was the highlight in your opinion?
The hookers and blow.
Cool. We figured as much, right?
Yeah.
Like, listen, if you're gonna go to Miami,
That's what I'm talking
you gotta
about,
live
bro.
it up.
It was definitely
You know what I mean?
You gotta live it up.
See, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you ever see me just touch my nose
That's it?
gingerly tonight,
Dude came back a whole coke head.
For real, bro. He picked up a habit.
just going through withdrawal. That's what I'm saying.
I'm trying to pick up a sale. We are not the same.
We are not the same.
I saw your boat down there, though. That was high hype. I like
So
that.
yeah, you saw the B Davis boat.
So the B Davis boat.
Yeah, that joint was
Black
moving.
owned business.
Shipment will be here Thursday.
Perfect.
All right, let me start the pot off real random, and y'all don't need to know why, but I'm going to say it. I said I was going to say it. I just want to let everybody know I'm a true believer. God is real. God is real. All right. Here we go. I know y'all in the dark.
That was random as
that was
hell,
random
bro.
as hell.
Like,
Very, very random, but I got my reasons.
Yeah?
Got my reasons. All right.
I ain't even gonna make any jokes about that.
You can, but
Nah.
I mean, then you're making jokes about God, and
No, I'm just making jokes
you
about
gotta
you.
live with the consequences.
I'm sure he understands.
You gotta live with the consequences. Russia versus Ukraine. We're jumping right into it.
Jesus. Yeah.
Esso, I know this was your topic, so we're gonna start up. We're gonna kick it to you.
All right. Well, first of all, any listeners who are either descent or national or cultural for that aspect, we're praying for everybody in this situation. There are Russians who are opposing a viewpoint of a single man. Obviously, the Ukrainians are dealing with what they're dealing with. So, again, we're not looking at it as a national conflict. This is more of a humanitarian issue. So let's identify with that first and foremost.
Did you just all lives matter Russia versus Ukraine, bro?
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but no.
Well, no.
Is that
You know
what we
why,
just
though,
did?
right? Because our lives are in there, too. So, in this case, it's not this specific people, or should we want to classify it as that?
I'm gonna let y'all go at it. I'm gonna let y'all duke it out.
We're over there, bro.
The issue is that like you have a more personal, I guess, take on all of this, right? And B is going to give you just the B Davis outlook on it, and he don't care who the shrapnel hits.
Fair enough.
Not to say that it's not well thought out or whatever, but B gonna let the chopper spray.
No, I guess so. And I'm sorry, I really shouldn't interrupt and I should let you go. But I guess my thought is we never talk about war from the side of civilians.
Correct.
Right? So when we talk about two countries at war, we're typically referring to the leaders of said countries and the army.
Correct.
Right? So that's why I'm asking, why did we all lives matter Putin and his army, basically? You see what I'm saying? Like
But
to say
it's not
like,
the field. That's different.
I'm not praying for Putin and the Russians.
I'm not praying for Putin,
You see what I'm saying?
but I'm praying for those Russians who are opposing Putin.
But those are the civilians. That's what I'm saying. We don't typically talk about war from the side of the civilians. We talk about the combatants.
Well, all right. So my approach was not that of the government.
Got you. Okay. All right. That now that makes sense to me.
Okay.
Your
That
approach
makes
is from the
sense.
people.
Yeah.
From the
Yeah,
people.
I got you.
Because our people are over there too.
Right.
So to your point, yeah, it is an all lives matter because we are inclusive in that demographic,
Right. Yeah.
and that's what I mean for that.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
Real quick, if we can sum it up, can one of you two smart brothers explain what's happening right now between Russia and the Ukraine?
well, I'm still on vacation, so be it.
Nah, man. Go ahead, bro. This is your topic, man.
See, this.
Hey, we're not gonna keep kickballing topics, bro.
God, listen. Russia wants to get back part of Ukraine, or all of Ukraine at this point, right? It used to be part of the former Soviet bloc that got extinguished back in the 80s. Berlin Wall fell, all that good stuff. So you're talking about Ukraine, you're talking about Belarus, Baltic states, that area that basically was the Iron Curtain between them and Europe. Putin thinks that, it all needs to come back to the Soviet Union. There's a lot of ethnic Russians there. He started about 8 years ago when he basically annexed parts of Crimea, and now he's trying to finish the job.
Okay, and may I add, from what I understand too, that where Ukraine is located, there's passageway canals for trade purposes as well.
Oh, so if we want to get into the real reasons of what's going on, that's the textbook. Hey, this is what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, right? The real reason is that they want to get control of those ports near the Black Sea, right? Russia has a lot of natural gas and oil reserves, but they can't sell it anywhere, right? They can sell it to Europe because they've got the gas pipelines that are going from there into Germany, Nord Stream 1, right? Germany just shut down Nord Stream 2, but they still have Nord Stream 1 up and going. So they can sell to there, they can sell to China, things like that. But if they want to be able to sell
to the West.
to the rest of the world a little easier, right? If they want to get it out to Africa easier, if they want to get it to America easier, then they need those ports that are down there by the Black Sea.
Gotcha.
That's the real reason of what's going on.
Gotcha.
Now, with that being said, Russia is supporting 40% of natural gas. Collectively, their natural resource, gas, crude oil, and coal substance to Europe as is.
Correct.
It's funny because we're talking about sanctions and how they're supposed to be changing Russia's viewpoints on what and how they're approaching the Ukraine, but I don't think these governments understand that it's going to affect the people, as we're saying, the civilians, more than it's going to affect the governments. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are not things that the governments are going to suffer. It may be in a financial aspect, but not in the physical, tangible reasons of not having the ability to turn on.
And you're talking
Power.
about sanctions right now.
The sanctions right now.
Right. Yeah.
So for the people, right? Let's explain, if we do know, who all has imposed said sanctions onto Russia right now, and why should the United States people be? Why is there an interest for America to have any type of sanctions?
Well, there's a lot of countries that have. The few that I can name specifically are more of the European ones, excluding the U.S. obviously. But U.S. is being one of them. You have finally Germany imposing some sanctions. You have France. You have Switzerland is the most neutral country
I was
ever.
about to say, yo, if Switzerland is coming at you, you done messed up.
Yeah, bro.
You really messed up.
Fun fact: even Pornhub shut down Russian sites. That's how crazy this is getting.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be crazy with the message, but that's how crazy this situation.
I'm
is
trying to
getting.
figure out how we go from Switzerland to Pornhub, but
'Cause
somehow there's a
it's all the
connection.
same. It's all connected. That's all connected. Haven't you seen Swiss? No.
You don't watch Swiss porn, bro? Like,
Why would you not?
Bro, let's get back on track, bro.
no culture.
Sanctions, Russia.
Jesus holy? No.
Sanctions, Russia.
Yeah.
All right. So, B, what is your take on why are other countries taking any type of interest right now
So part of the issue is people don't think that Russia's going to stop at Ukraine. Thinks there's going to be continued westward expansion of what he wants to do.
Through Georgia.
Right, exactly. So you're talking about Poland right next to it, right? You're talking about all those other countries that are right there. Those are all NATO countries. You know what I'm saying? So with the exception of obviously Belarus, right? Belarus is not in NATO. Ukraine is not in NATO. But once you get more west than that, now you're talking NATO territory. And so that's why the U.S. and Western Europe are like, okay, we gotta pay attention to what's going on here.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
If this was a Middle Eastern dictator, do we treat this war differently?
That's the question. That's a really, really good question.
It depends on who he's invading and who the surrounding countries are. From a geopolitical standpoint, right? The layout of our allies in the Middle East is a bit different than when you're talking about Europe. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference. Also, I don't know if we necessarily have a treaty with those countries over there the same way that we have NATO.
Yeah.
You see, you know what I mean? So I think that's the biggest difference. And when you're talking about
why is a country who is not part of NATO currently being supported by the groups? I mean, to an extent, because it's not like NATO is directly involved. It can't be for obvious reasons, much like the U.S. can't be for obvious reasons. But there's still, it's like, we can give you the tools, but we can't help you.
Because they are a democratic nation that's a valued trade partner.
Correct. And I know they're also been
why.
trying to be on like the next, I want to say cut for entering NATO.
Right.
But I think after this war, that could immediately change.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Really, that's why we're taking the special type of interest in them that we are, right? Really just because of that.
I think it's funny because I think the concept of war in general and allies, it's a strange thing.
Yeah.
When you think about it, like you're invested because of depending on the countries involved, but your investment is really only to protect your personal investment.
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it's like if you see that's like seeing two strangers fight on a corner.
Yeah.
And you don't know either one of them or who they are or what they're about. You
Right.
just let them fight. But if you see, your coworker and somebody that is you have any type of investment and they're fighting another person, maybe you're more inclined to jump in.
Sure.
And I don't know, man. It's just war on a global scale, and then you start factoring in, like you said, trade partners, and you start factoring in who has control of nuclear weapons and all of these things, and it gets really crazy.
Well, that's funny you say that because I forget which president it was. I don't want to say it was Zelensky. I can't remember the guy who was before him, but the Ukraine was more or less coerced into giving up their nuclear arms to Russia for Russia to leave them alone.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how long ago that was.
That was back in the 90s, I believe.
Was it?
Yeah.
But
Late
here
80s,
here we go. And Russia,
Yeah.
excuse me, Putin's been in place since almost 20 years now.
Yep.
So it runs right into the 90s, which basically you're making deals with the same guy who's not going back on his deals. So at what point do we say the level of accountability is now what?
So there's issue in that pocket of the world with nuclear armed countries, right? I mean, we kind of went through this with India a few years back with their nukes, and Obama had a whole crusade of like denuclearization, where it was trying to get countries basically to turn down their nukes,
To lay down their arms.
Yeah, basically, yeah, lay down your arms and whatnot, just so we didn't run into the situation of all out nuclear war, because no one wins at that point, right? We vaporize everybody. So that's been the thing. Like we've been trying to do that in Iran, right? And we had that whole nuclear program over there where we were monitoring how many nukes they were making and all that kind of stuff, what they were using their nuclear fuel for, the fuel rods, all that kind of stuff, right? That's basically what happened with Ukraine. They got caught up in that, and in order to maintain their sovereignty at the time, once the Iron Curtain fell, that was kind of part of the deal, right? Russia really doesn't want anybody basically on their doorstep with nuclear weapons, but they want to be able to threaten everybody else with nuclear weapons. So, yeah, that's kind of how they rock and roll.
So interesting. So where do you think this leads? Because there's a lot of people up in arms right now who are expressing, albeit whether it's warranted or not, this is the initiation of World War III, and
It's not.
and people are just jumping, they're jumping off the ledge, right?
Yeah.
And where do you, with your I guess with your opinion, your informed opinion,
Yeah.
where do you see this leading? How do you see this ending?
Well, hold on. Before you jump in that bit, we have to understand these are not the same wars that we're fighting 40, 50, 60.
Definitely
100
not.
years ago.
Yeah.
It's more financial. You know what I'm saying? It's more resource based. It's more cyber based. So the saying that this is the next World War III, I think they're looking at it from a tangible, more troop send based claim. But this is not that level anymore. You know what I'm saying? We're doing things literally by click of a finger from a computer sitting at home. You know what I'm saying? Like we have access to in this case, the purpose of sanctions, especially with the SWIFT that Russia funnels through, which is basically Russia's financial access
Right.
to the world.
Right.
And for those who don't know, SWIFT is not a bank. It is the banking system that is used.
Yes.
Easiest way I can simplify it is basically just think of Venmo. It's very similar to Venmo. It's on a larger scale.
International Venmo, basically.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
There you go. But there's so much time that can still take place. Like changing those tactics of what we're doing is not stopping troops from going in.
No.
You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. These sanctions are imposed on Russia right now are not good enough to stop the troops from going in. There's still a bounty on Zelensky's head. They're still going to try and find this guy. He's not going anywhere. And shout out to him for standing in it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
There was countries that were offering him to airlift him out. And he was like, no,
Yep.
I'm staying in this fight. So, we have to understand, like, in this point, know your audience. Russia, and again, I want to say Russia, let's just say Putin is too stubborn to care about your thoughts right now because he wants what he wants.
Yeah. He's gonna do what he's gonna do, bro.
And he knows that.
That's what that's what he's been doing. Like, and that's just kind of the thing, right? So, but I don't really think this goes too much further past Ukraine. I don't think Russia really wants a war with NATO. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see that ending well for anybody at this point. I think the sanctions are going to hurt them. We're seeing things out of Russia that we've never, at least in my lifetime, haven't seen. Right? I haven't seen oligarchs come out and publicly go against Putin. Right? I haven't seen people in the streets of Moscow protesting.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Against something that Putin has done. That to me, that's amazing that we're even seeing those images.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's why they push these sanctions, because they know it's going to hurt the people, right? And it gets the people riled up. Now, what can the people do about it in Russia? That I don't know, short of assassinating world leaders. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't have real democratic elections.
Right.
So it's not like, when the ballot box comes around, they can be like, oh, we're about to vote this dude out. Nah, he kills the people that run against him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, are we talking military coup at this point? You know what I'm saying? To get a real regime change over there? Like, I have no idea. I don't know how they changed that situation. And I think that's why they just tried to put him into a box and just say, you know what? You can have your country, but you're just going to have your country and you're going to be alone in your country.
So question. We talked about this off mic, but I want to bring it to the microphone. How does this current this situation between Russia and Ukraine, how does this affect Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, as being a what do we say, a globally accepted currency?
Basically a reserve currency.
A reserve currency?
Yeah.
How does this affect that?
Well, I mean, it's the, for lack of a better word, savings account for those who have money tied up into the system that they're being blocked. You know what I mean? So you're going to see a massive sell-off to access those funds because right now it's not regulated. You know what I mean? So it just makes sense. It's like, if I can't tap my money, I'm going to tap my other money. Long story short.
Right.
But it's there's going to be that huge impact mainly because of the fact of there will be a time where crypto will be regulated just to counteract what's going on now. You know what I mean? If you're a simple oligarch and part of the regime that Putin is trying to do, and you still need access to money, and you know you have access through Bitcoin because nobody can regulate that as of right now. We're talking about wallets and access to wallets. They still have access to crypto wallets,
Right.
which is still tangible and fungible in itself. So
Right. The issue becomes, though, where do you spend and buy that crypto, right? Like what can you purchase with it?
I mean, a lot of deals that are done on the black market are done through crypto.
On the black market, right? But if you're
mainstream.
right, in the mainstream, like I don't know how much stuff Russia buys as a nation
Right.
on the black market. I'm sure there are some things that do get purchased
Right.
on the black market, but I'm sure there's also other things that they purchase above board as a country.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And those things, I don't know if they're purchasable through Bitcoin.
I mean,
Right,
I
and
honestly
that's-
don't have the answer for that.
and that-
I don't know. But
Yeah, and so when we were talking off mic, that's why I suppose that like we may not see Bitcoin, literally Bitcoin, be used as a reserve fund. We might see other currencies, other crypto coins come online as a reserve fund, but it might not be Bitcoin.
Well, because wasn't that the pitch? The initial pitch
Yeah.
was that it's decentralized,
Right,
it's unregulated,
right,
and that's the appeal,
yes,
right?
Right.
So to go back on that now would essentially be to just completely change the worthiness.
and I don't even know if you can do that. Like, I don't know if you can alter the blockchain ledgers to even make that happen.
and they're trying, but
Right. Yeah. I literally don't think it's possible. You know what I'm saying? So,
So interesting.
yeah, man.
Definitely interesting.
I want to touch on the point you said. You had mentioned the media as far as images that we're seeing,
Right.
and
That Russia is not.
that Russia is not seeing.
Yeah.
Russia is not seeing the images that we are when it comes to the oligarchs who are standing up to Putin. They're not seeing the images of just the civilians on the street protesting against Putin. I know people, firsthand who believe that there's no war going on.
Right.
Firsthand people. I talked to them just yesterday.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's because their news is coming from Russia.
Right.
So it's scary how much, and I mean, that doesn't just go to the Russian media. That just goes to media in general of how things are skewed based on the perception of who wants to see.
So two things, right? Because number one, Telegram is a very widely used app over there in Russia, right? And I think a lot of video and picture and things like that are being spread through Telegram. So I think some people over there are getting something, but it's not being spread through their mainstream media, right? The other interesting correlation is let's think about that. Let's think about the things that they're not being shown, that they're not being told, right? And you have people that just believe that it's not actually happening.
Right.
If only I could find another country where you have people who refuse to believe things. You know what I'm saying? That they, because they say, "Oh well, I don't think that really happened."
I don't see it.
You know what I'm saying?
I personally don't see it.
Right. And I'm drawing that correlation purposely. Right? Because we talked about the disinformation campaign. We talked about, Russian interference in the latest election. Hillary's email type, situation. And I think
What we don't talk about now is the 3 years ago where we're holding Ukraine hostage to investigate.
Well,
remember that?
exactly, right? And so there's actually a straight beeline from like 2014
Right.
Russia-Ukraine invasion through the entire Trump presidency of what really
Right.
was happening, right? They figured out back in 2014 that they could manipulate social media in the way that they did, right? So we're talking about Facebook ads, other social media platform ads, troll farms, bots, things like that. And because social media is basically at that point like an open platform, like anybody can get online and post an ad.
Right.
Anybody can set up a bot, right? Anybody can do these things. It was hard to trace where that stuff was coming from, right? And so they started to control the narrative of social media. And then, Crimea, when they were able to do this in Crimea, they basically discovered the blueprint of how they wanted to move forward, right? but we have to recognize that this was a military operation that was going on just via information at that point, right? So there weren't guns involved, there weren't landmines, there weren't tanks. Like the military was starting a disinformation war.
Right.
This isn't just, I'm going to run a couple ads and see what happens. Like this was a strategic event. You see what I'm saying? And so now when you have the last guy in office and then you start to look, remember we impeached him the first time for not arming Ukraine or withholding defense weapons from Ukraine, right? Why? Because it makes it easier for Russia to try to run through there, right? And then we see how we treated our European allies and how we tried to break down NATO. Like when people say, oh, well, Putin wouldn't have done this under Trump. Of course not. Trump was doing the work for him. Right. Like this is what Putin has been wanting to do for the last 20 years is to break down NATO. Trump was doing all that work for him. That's
no.
It's nuts to me. And people still don't want to see it and be like, oh, the Mueller report said there was no collusion. Like the Mueller report showed that there was definitive collusion and interference or misinformation campaigns coming from the Russian side. Like that's what this has been the entire time.
It's wild, right? Because we literally have Netflix documentaries about stuff like this.
Yeah.
There was one that I watched recently about the company Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
The one where they were literally affecting outcomes of elections.
Yes.
Through social media, just kind of like the volume.
Was Cambridge Analytica, was that Peter Thiel?
No.
No. Which one was Peter Thiel's group?
Man.
I don't remember off the top of my head. But go ahead with Cambridge Analytica. That was another one that they worked very closely with Facebook and scraped a lot of data.
Zuckerberg.
They were Stacey Abrams of the internet at that time.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg spent so much time trying to disassociate himself.
Palantir. That's what I'm thinking of. Palantir.
Okay, yeah, from Cambridge Analytica.
Yes.
And just and the way that I'll sit and I'll watch documentaries all day long.
Yeah.
Right. But this one caught my eye because it was literally just kind of how they were using small portions of countries as test subjects.
Yeah.
To see how much they could affect by essentially, like you said, just pumping disinformation into the social media realm.
Wait, Steve Bannon was a founder of that?
Yes.
One of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Say less.
Bro, if y'all get a chance, I can't remember what's the name of that. What was the name of that documentary? It was on Netflix. I can't remember the name of the documentary, but if you get a chance to watch it.
Bannon and Manafort, their ties run super deep through all of
the Great Hack.
That's what it was.
Through all of this, yo. Like it's nuts.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Nuts.
The Great Hack.
Great Hack.
Yeah.
I sat and I watched and I was just like, man, this is, and it makes you wonder just kind of like how much of it you've consumed.
Yeah.
Just unbeknownst to you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just about, it wasn't directly like, oh, vote for this person or don't vote for that person.
Right.
It literally broke down how accounts and things were created to position people on both sides.
Yep.
So Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter and all these different things. Because the truth was that the power was behind the keyboard the entire time.
Yep.
Just dictating, controlling pockets of people.
Yeah.
It's insane. It is insane. The internet, which I think we say this all the time, a crazy creation.
Yeah.
So much advancement in the technology, but it's such a dangerous thing, a dangerous tool.
So much disinformation that's on there, it's ridiculous as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, the disinformation and just the way that it can be manipulated, people can be manipulated because now you can reach the furthest corners of the globe with a click of a button.
I mean, you almost have to fact check the internet. Then you have to have a fact check for the fact check.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way you're really going to know exactly what it is. Because, I mean, each one of us, even the three of us sitting at this table, we look for what fits our narrative for the most part.
Well, that was kind of part of it, right? So it was like talking about how there's so much information and data for each person.
Right.
That was the other part of that too, right? That there's so many data points collected on each individual.
Yeah.
and how each person can be shown. We can all three be sitting here logged into our Twitter right now and have completely different timelines and feeds.
Yeah.
Because it's literally geared towards our data points.
Yeah.
Every time we swipe a credit card, every time we go through a toll booth, every time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our cell phones ping different
It tracks everything, bro.
towers.
Yeah.
Like, it tracks everything.
Speaking of which, you know what? Shout out to Apple privacy. You know, Facebook hates you.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they
Shout
do.
out to Apple privacy.
It's insane, man. It makes
Yeah.
you. It helps you understand how people can just be like, I'm disconnecting, I'm unplugging, I'm completely going off the grid as much as I can.
But even then, they still, it doesn't matter.
Well,
It's too late.
Because it's not necessarily that it's too late. It's that you have people that want to follow these things, right? People feel comfortable by having someone else tell them how to feel, right? And validating their feelings that they can't say out loud.
It feels like everybody who voted for 45.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Because it's not like 45 didn't invent racism.
Of course
He didn't invent xenophobia. He didn't invent homophobia.
Right.
He didn't invent transphobia. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He invented none of those things. And yet they all made a wild public resurgence under his watch. Why? Because people felt comfortable.
Right.
By being able to say, "Oh well, this is what I read, so I just believe this is true. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
I don't trust the guys who told you that. CNN. You know what I'm saying? Like the same. Meanwhile, they're quoting you something from Fox News.
Yeah.
You know
No,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
absolutely.
So it's like you quote one mainstream media source to debunk the other mainstream media source that you just choose not to believe
Yeah. What
without any rhyme or reason. Like that.
It's wild because even I know we like to highlight the Trump presidency, right? But Cambridge Analytica was being utilized. Their services, their data collection services,
both, bro.
were being utilized before him.
Absolutely. Yes.
And it was just kind of the way that it was the way that data was collected and disseminated and then kind of repurposed
Right.
for a personal agenda.
Right. I mean, we've been collecting data from people for decades now. You understand what I'm saying?
Well,
Like
what's his name told us that? Snowden.
Snowden.
Edward Snowden told us.
But even on a smaller level, bro. Remember when all the supermarkets, used to have you sign up, you get the little card thing that you swipe for lower prices or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Track your spending.
That's the same thing, bro. When they started doing that, like it's the same
Well, it's
thing.
the same thing. You were saying this. Both you guys were saying this a while ago.
Yeah.
That we are now the people are now the commodity.
Absolutely.
Which is why you can have such free range, wide access.
Yeah.
To the internet.
Yeah.
Because you are the commodity now. Your
Facts.
data, your information,
Facts.
how to advertise to you. It's insane. I don't want to start doing the conspiracy theory thing, but
Nah, I mean it's not even a conspiracy theory anymore. Like people just have to decide whether they want to really be free thinkers and not just call themselves free thinkers because somebody on the internet said, "Hey, buddy, guess what? You're a free thinker," and they went, "Oh, you know what? I am. This is amazing."
So we don't have to go into this another topic, but I just wanted to bring it up because I saw something tumble down my feed, my personalized feed.
Yeah.
So did something happen recently with Pfizer and the FDA about their data being unlocked, or was that kind of being questioned or challenged?
I don't know.
Remember how they wanted to hide or not hide? Sorry, my apologies. Poor choice of words. My apologies. But how they wanted to keep their research kind of confidential for 75 years.
Oh, that doesn't shock me at all.
And somehow or some way that's being petitioned to kind of be opened up sooner.
With what, Freedom of Information Act request or something?
I'm not 100% sure, so I'm just kind of throwing something out there in the event that either one of you have seen or heard.
No, but it doesn't shock me, right? I mean, if you think about it, outside of Pfizer and who's the other company, Moderna, that have the widely used vaccines, why wouldn't they want to keep it kind of in the tuck?
Yeah.
And if they're the two dominant market positions.
I mean, medicine, I would assume, is the one thing that's not really shared unless it's created, and even then, it's a proprietary piece.
Well, yeah, but I mean, your testing and stuff like that should be open source, right? I mean, somebody should at least be able to go back and replicate the testing that you've done, just to make sure that it's all above board.
Not until I get all mine off. Not
it
until
would still be
not
that
until I
company,
capitalize on all my information.
Unless they're selling off the information, that's the only way I would see any company, especially
Right.
in the
I mean, I could see them saying, "Oh, this is a trade secret."
Right.
You know, we need to keep this under wraps.
Yeah, I didn't want
For however long
to
it's
deep
possible,
dive in it. I just wanted to introduce it.
Yeah.
In the event that either one of you heard about it, maybe some of our listeners are interested, or maybe now they know. Hey, go look into it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's it's Pfizer. What? Of course they did.
So that was that. Switching gears because we spent a little bit of time on that.
Yeah.
Esso finally saw Tinder Swindler.
Oh my God.
It only took him a month later.
Goals.
Jesus.
It only took him a month to finally sit down. Leave the
I need to watch something I can live.
leave the throne and finally come down amongst the common folk
Facts.
and share. So what was your take, bro?
I think Tinder Swindler kind of validated the stance I've been taking a lot with.
Go ahead.
Let it
Restate
go,
your
bro.
stance,
There you
bro.
go.
Let it
Here we
go.
Restate your stance.
Women ain't.
Now say it louder.
Yo, say it loud. Say it with your chest,
Say it
man.
louder, bro.
Women ain't. No, man.
That's at Black Crown Royal
Yeah, right.
on Twitter.
That's Black Crown Royal from Twitter.
So come on, give us your
Real
take.
talk, though.
Tell us why you don't think women are shit. Go ahead. I'm waiting to hear this.
Notice B. He's leading you right along. Like,
He really
come on.
is.
Why exactly are women ain't shit? Go ahead.
Don't forget, I know your supply.
Stop ducking the question, bro. Stop ducking
I know
the
where your
question,
bodies is
bro.
buried.
You know what I mean? You open this one up. Let's go.
So listen, Tinder Swindler. I mean, look, we all saw it, and
Finally.
we agreed, pre-production, so to speak, with the approach that this man's taking. And the main one I'm looking at, and I mentioned it in the afterthought, was this dude. The only difference between him and what every other man is doing is the finance, the financial game. Mm-hmm. That's really it. So if we're putting so much emphasis on the fact that this dude had access to millions of dollars through other people and was using that to fund his own personal agendas, take away the millions of dollars, because a lot of women say men ain't shit anyway, men are dogs and all these types of things. He was just doing it on a larger scale
Right.
So what exactly does this have to do with the women?
because the women chose to fund this operation with minimum contact from this dude in less than a year.
Yo, why'd you? What is,
Just saying. Any regular woman, just like any logical person thinking, was not going to give $250,000 to a man they just met. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Until they see the lifestyle. And what they saw day one was the lifestyle, assuming that this man can afford anything he had promised them.
Talk to him.
So again, it's almost like you reap what you sow. You bought into the lie. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? However you may view that is your choice. But the bottom line is, again, you and I couldn't do this. We do it on a lesser scale for that matter. Hell, we ask for $10. Nah, who are you? Why are you asking for money?
Right.
And then again,
broke ass.
first question is, you go and talk to a millionaire.
You ain't got
or dude-
$10.
yo, you can't get $10 for him?
Get $10?
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I got time to get $5. I'm just saying. No, but look, there's other questions that we talked about, like the time frames. Like that was one thing that this did not specify per woman.
right.
So I'll give the ambiguity to that.
Yeah.
But the other things I'm looking at as far as like the lack of questions that these women have asked this man in reference to jeopardizing their self.
So what you're saying is when a grown man says he has enemies, that's something you might want to question.
I don't trust anybody who uses the word enemy so freely.
All right, I'm just wondering.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
All right, so
Felt like that sounded a little weird.
My enemies.
My enemies are
What?
against me.
I was like,
My enemies don't want to see me win. Who
send me 25K stat.
the fuck are you, bro? Like, come on.
Oh.
So are you saying that people in general can be easily manipulated when they see things that they want to see for their own?
I think
For their own
we
reasons.
when we are led to believe a certain ideal, we kind of put our morals and judgment to the back burner.
This motherfucker, you gonna all lives matter everything, ain't you, Jay? You gonna what he said was women ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? That's what he said. You know what I mean? This motherfucker. So when you mean people, that's not what he said. And what he started off saying.
Listen, you can do whatever you want to. Bottom line is, these women.
Yo, can we all agree that the one chick was lying That said they was just friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can all agree about that. 100%.
100%.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Like just stand in it. Like
She
stand
was
10
getting
toes.
smashed, yeah.
Stand 10 toes. Say yeah. I mean, you was getting what you was looking for.
Right.
And that's why you was going all crazy, taking out these loans and advances. and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Fam.
Like because you sound even crazier saying like we was just friends.
Right.
But I'm just gonna give my friend $100K.
Right.
Like you sound
That's
even
wild.
crazier. At least be getting your back blown out.
Right. The
You know
baby
what I mean?
the baby mom was a real one though.
Yeah, she was
Yeah,
real.
absolutely. She
Yeah,
got a lick back.
Yeah. Yeah.
She got a lick back. She got taken for a ride, and she said,
Yeah.
"You know what? I'm joining the crew."
Yep.
Look, what's this guy's real name again? Do you remember?
We don't know his real name. We know he called himself Simon Lviv.
Yeah.
I thought he went back to his home and found out where he was at, though.
They did. I just
Yeah,
don't
they
remember
did.
what it was.
They did. It was a very ethnic name because he was Israeli.
Shout out to Pennsylvania for giving him a tender swindler
Yeah,
license.
man. Like, I need to know where that guy was at, man.
For real, facts.
I need to find out what was going on.
All right. So
So what's your take on it? Because we really didn't go into it because none of us really saw it at the time where you did.
yeah. No, this is what he did wasn't new. It wasn't unique. You know, and it was crazy because he got caught because of just the steps that he took in it. But we see women do this all the time. Women do it all the time. It's not movie worthy. It's not documentary worthy. It's not going to end up on Netflix. We call
So what
that,
you're saying
we
is
call that regular everyday life.
we call that Instagram.
Yeah, you feel me?
Yeah.
I think I said this before that because of the people he was targeting, like they saw what they wanted to see, and he showed them what they wanted to see.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it.
Pretty much.
Because everybody else I talked to was like, "Yo, why would we believe that this random billionaire who has access to all this money and this lifestyle and this power all of a sudden needs my little coins?"
Yeah.
Right.
And we matched on Tinder,
Yeah.
and he saw me for me.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like,
You know what's crazy, though?
we said that before. Like, you got to understand where you fall. Like,
Facts.
the reality of it is, like, can you right now, you listening to this podcast right now,
Yeah.
look at yourself in the mirror. Just take a look at yourself. Right now, whatever you're doing,
Pause what you're doing.
pause what you're doing, take a look at yourself,
yourself.
and ask yourself,
Yeah.
can I really bag a billionaire?
Right.
Like, ask yourself that
Do
right
you
now.
really deserve this?
Right now.
Yeah,
And if
man.
the answer, and if you're being real with yourself,
It's no.
chances are it's not.
You don't.
So you're definitely not going to run across a random one on Tinder.
Right.
By chance. Who just so happens to be able to give you the world.
Right.
For the first 30 days. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Let's use logic. Let's use reasoning. That's my take on it.
I mean, again,
They
when that
got
dollar is shown, my
taken.
man.
They got taken because they made themselves available to be taken.
That's the important part, right? Like when you show somebody $1 in a dream, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, run head first into it," and especially when you're susceptible and you make yourself susceptible. So they got what they deserve, as far as I'm concerned, because that was a wild story.
It was a while,
You
bro.
know what I'm saying?
There's so many parts of it that are
Yeah.
wild. Like, and I don't know. I mean, by this time, if you haven't seen it, you're probably not going to watch it. But from the very first link, you get on a flight with a dude, and his baby mom is on the flight with you, on a private plane with you. Like, I mean, how many red flags do you need to see? How many red
Who
flags?
just gets on a private
Yo,
jet with a stranger?
Would you get on a jet with me with my baby mom? Like, that's the question. Ask yourself again.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this podcast
I'm
right
ready to get
now,
on jet with you. Would you?
not you two.
And if you would,
Y'all coming with me because y'all my co-defendants. But I'm talking about that regular, everyday, average listener. Yo, you're my bodyguard. You the pilot. Like, that's why y'all come with me. Because we ride together, we die together.
All right, we're gonna put a
Bad
profile
boys for
tonight.
life.
Let's identify these roles.
Yeah,
Facts.
exactly. Let's get the road
Okay.
straight, right? But I mean, like all of it, like, and just the next question is like, yo, you're the son of a billionaire. Once again, you come to this whatever your financial crisis is. Why turn to me? You have access to a billionaire or a billionaire's Rolodex.
Right.
Why do you need my coins?
Facts.
Why do I have to take out loans and max my credit cards and all these other things?
Because these chicks wanted to feel needed, bro.
Exactly.
Like that's what it was. He was fulfilling their need to be needed. That's it. And they took the bait, hook, line, and sinker.
I
Wait,
promise.
so you
we're
mean
not
that
always-
based on the financial aspect, right? or the emotional?
On the emotional aspect, that he led them to believe that they were able to do something for him.
No, I disagree on that.
You disagree? Go for it. Go for it. Talk
Here
to
we
me.
go, shimmy.
Talk to me.
Shimmy.
All right, so
Like James Harden.
you loan somebody some money, right? Mm-hmm. They don't pay you back.
Right?
You gonna loan them something again?
These women would, because they felt like that was their contribution. They felt like, you're already a billionaire, right? What else can I really bring into your life? Because obviously they were regular type of people. You know what I'm saying? There was nothing razzle dazzle about them as people in general.
They were in love with the idea of him being able to support whatever dreams that they wanted.
Right.
They weren't in love with him because you can put that face to anybody that they swipe right on.
Sure.
You know what
Sure.
I'm
No,
saying?
absolutely.
Is it swipe right?
Swipe right.
All right, cool. Because I wasn't
know.
sure, bro. I wasn't sure.
I mean, you was just using the app when you walked in the door, bro. What are you talking about?
Something ping was over here. But anyway,
You know what I'm saying?
Somehow I'll become the target.
you do this to yourself.
Not Simon Leviev. My bad. Go ahead.
Set yourself up for this.
But no, I mean, like, there's a lot of common sense stuff that all these women he had literally come across that just overlooked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
what I'm saying. Like, you can't say it, but there's no way that all of them would react the same way if they didn't see the lifestyle.
Yes, there is.
And that's the obvious.
There absolutely
That's
is.
the obvious.
You
metaphor,
thought these
Mark.
hoes was different, huh? You know what I'm saying? Is that what you thought was going on?
That's it. We're getting canceled after this episode.
You thought these
This is the
bitches
last
was
one.
different?
It's appropriate. It's
Stop
episode
it.
69.
Maybe 69. How about that?
You know what I mean? Stop it.
Figures.
But look, I mean,
Basic chicks do basic shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, outside of them having decent credit scores, what was
well, you know, it's funny you said it because, like, he did, I don't want to say target, but these women had access to $250K.
Yeah, but keep in mind these were those high interest rate loan type of situations that they put in your mailbox every week.
But you know how it works with the credit systems. They look at your overextension, and they're like, "Look, your debt to income ratio, regardless, like, there's nothing showing me that you can make or pay these loans back."
They don't care.
They don't care,
They
apparently.
just want you to run up the check,
Even
bro.
Amex. First of all, I thought Amex security was a lot tighter than what it was. 'Cause
Right.
Usually, if you're not physically there, they ain't saying nothing.
Right.
Hold on. Wait. Pause. Time out real quick. Let's not do that because look who was applying for these loans and advances, bro. Mm-hmm. All right. Their names was not Jerome, Devontae.
Right.
You right?
They could get a loan over the phone, bro.
No,
Oh, yeah,
but
no,
no,
I mean,
not the
that's-
loan, not the loan.
It's
the
not so much
security.
that.
Well, I'm talking
right.
about
The security, like Amex is very strict on security.
Right,
As they should,
right.
Regardless of who has.
Yeah.
And if you're not physically tangible there with the card, they should not give access to somebody else. They tell you that. Now, however that played out, I don't know.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
You ever ran into a Karen?
Have I ever ran into a Karen?
Yeah. They gonna get what they want.
They're
fam.
gonna figure that out.
They gonna get what they want.
I guess these are European Karens. They're different.
European Karens.
Karens.
There you go. Yo, that's it. We're done. We're done. Episode 69, yo. This is it. I know this is it. I know it is. This the one that's gonna put us on the map. Yo, From Earth Podcast. Yo, if y'all was following us, this the one that put us on.
That's the one.
Yo, what is happening? We're off the rails, bro. My bad.
I don't know. I still started thinking that chicks were different. that was it for me.
What
you
do
give-
these
y'all giving us
ladies
so much
want
quotables,
from an
bro.
African American?
So many quotables, bro. Do we? All right. Was there anything else we want? I want to get off of this topic. Is there anything else? Do we want to do the J.R. Smith comments on the athlete responsibilities?
We can shout him out.
Yeah,
real
I mean,
quick.
you shout 'em out.
Oh wait, speaking of shout outs, bro.
Oh, facts.
You gotta.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Jake.
yes. Shout out Rocky Patel. Rocky Patel Cigars out of Connecticut. My man Esso came back, and just to so happen to come across some of the finer cigars that you're going to see.
Yeah.
And Rocky Patel is an actual supporter of the From Earth podcast. He follows the Julius From Earth page on IG, on Instagram. So we just wanted to make sure that we shouted him out, shouted the group out.
Yeah.
And just said, like, we appreciate y'all and we understand we about to partake.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna make sure we wanted to give you a shout out and let you know that we see you and we see how you coming.
Yeah.
So, shout out Rocky Patel. And if you want an ad, juliusfromearth@gmail.com.
Right.
You can talk to my business manager, and we'll give you all the rates.
Yep.
All right, now, but for real. All right, so J.R. Smith was on the I Am Athlete podcast with Brandon Marshall. We talked about them before, and he was talking about how athletes, like during his time in the NBA, all of the money that he's blown through that could have really changed some communities. You know, the access to the money that he's had, and how that money, if he would have treated it a little bit more wisely and respected it a little bit more, how much that money could have meant to people in underprivileged communities and just the neighborhoods in general, right? So you were the one. I mean, I know I saw it, but you were the one who brought it up and said we should definitely talk about it. So what's your take?
So there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to, and it may not be what you think, but I'm just trying. The main question I want to ask ourselves as a people is it someone else's responsibility to give back to us if they make it out, for one, right? Because, again, like he said, he blew through a bunch of money that could have been repurposed, for that matter, back into his communities, things like, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? That's his personal want, if that's the case. He doesn't owe it to anybody because he made it out. You know, and there's a lot of athletes we've seen. Hell, we had a couple of fan favorites around, Camden area that made it out, who squandered it. Back on the streets kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So it was more intriguing to me to see the mindset of how we think or what we expect from those who do make it out. Do they owe us something to give back to the communities that we're from, as opposed to coming together as a community and building up? Because J.R. Smith may have access to that, but what are the roles that we're going to play? J.R. Smith giving back to the community who doesn't understand how to use that money is still going to be misappropriated. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, B, I know you want to jump in. Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Do you think, bro?
So I think the first and foremost you got to remember that J.R. Smith was just talking about him personally,
right?
And if he was spending a little bit more time investing in the communities and the things that he had an interest in, with that money, when we're saying money, we're talking about like money he got fined for, things he was fined for, being late on the bus, getting suspended, stuff like that. I mean, not suspended, getting thrown out of games or whatever, just that kind of stuff.
They're basically
right?
fined.
Yeah, so fine. So stuff that he could have done with the money that he squandered. The one thing when we talk about this, I don't like to talk about how communities will automatically just misappropriate the funds. If a community receives some type of infusion of cash, I think that we need to break the stereotype that automatically we're not going to know what to do with it. I think that carries a negative connotation.
Correct.
And I think that it sends the wrong message.
Yep.
Because the reality of it is that if you start going into some of these areas, I guarantee you that you have smart brothers and sisters that are waiting for that type of opportunity and take full advantage of it, right? And J.R. Smith, because he has access and has had access to those types of funds and people with those types of funds, if he chose to do that, I'm sure he could find responsible people to handle those funds appropriately. Right. So that's what I wanted to say on that. Now, go ahead, B. I'm sorry.
No, and I agree with what you said, right? As far as the question of does anybody owe, right? Does anybody have the responsibility to do so? Obviously, no, right? They don't owe anyone. There's no bill that comes due with your success in that form. But if we're also going to talk about and have the conversations about the community, right? If we're going to talk about black ownership, if we're going to talk about black investment and all that kind of stuff, that's how it gets done, right? So you can't have one conversation without the other conversation then at that point. I feel like those two go hand in hand. Does he owe? Probably not. But if the goal of the community is to raise the community, then somebody has to go out, get it, and bring it back.
Well, yeah, but there's also, we talked about, I forget which episode it was, but like the pillars of the African American community, right? And a lot of these communities don't even have those foundations.
Right.
And that's my point is they're not structurally prepared.
How do you prepare them if somebody don't go get the bread and bring it back in to do
Well,
it?
listen, I mean, but again, it's got to start somewhere. It doesn't always have to. You have to have the baseline set up at least somewhere. So if you're saying we need more money to establish, hey, we're trying to build hospitals this year, we're trying to build a banking this year, we're trying to build a school in this system. Like,
Right.
That's different. That's something you can physically say, all right, look, that's the purpose of what we're trying to do to start appropriating the correct funds that we know. This is the design. Here's the money to get that done.
Right.
You know, now again, I don't know what level he was talking about. We're just talking basically in general terms with this. So he could say, hey, look, give it to those communities specifically to build schools, to build hospitals, to
Right.
build its own police departments. You know, let's start policing ourselves and hold
Right.
ourselves accountable, excuse me. Because we talked about, you know, hiring from within.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the ideal of giving back to the community, yes, but the ideal is one thing. The plan, the blueprint is another. And a lot of times we talk about that, and that's one of the things that people like LeBron, again, we give credence to, is he puts back with the plan, with the blueprint of, like, I'm going to build X, Y, Z.
Right.
That's going to do this. I'm going to put my people on. They're going to be able to do it X, Y, Z. So I'm saying he doesn't talk about just throwing money randomly there.
Sure, but why does J.R. Smith also have to be the guy with the plan?
He doesn't.
He's just the guy with the money.
He's just
And,
the guy
and,
with-
that, and, that, and that's what I'm saying. Why can't he just
Well,
be a
that's what I'm saying,
financier?
because it's almost like, you know, playing the lottery. It's like I can hope something happens or something cannot happen.
Well,
But I did my part as the player.
I looked at it like this. I looked at it as him saying that he understands now the importance of being the financier.
Right.
Right.
Right. And now it's important for him to find or be introduced to the people who have the plan.
Right.
That's the importance. I mean,
Right.
when I love that, the reason I love that podcast is because they are able to humanize the people that have been in the spotlight for
Right.
one part of their life, right? For
Right.
being athletes. But now you get to hear about who they are as a person,
Right.
and their interest, and it's cool because it's like you're starting to understand. They understand. They see that there's larger goals that they can start to set for themselves outside of sports. And that's why I think that's cool, and it's a good thing. And for J.R. Smith, if you want to invest in black business and black excellence, the From Earth podcast is completely open for business.
Absolutely.
We've talked about the pillars of the black community before. We support black excellence, we support black infrastructure, but we also just support receiving money.
Yeah.
I'm with that. I'm with it totally.
Yeah, I mean, J.R. Smith did what 99% of people who go in the NBA do, right? He went into the league. Didn't he come in straight out of high school?
He did.
At 18, right? And he from North Jersey?
He is.
Yeah. So, you know, he came 18 out of North Jersey, went straight to the league, started getting money. Of course he's blowing bread in the strip club.
Right.
It might not have been Night on Broad, but he's definitely going to blow some bread in the strip
I
club.
was about to catch it. I knew I was catching it straight. I knew it was
You
coming.
understand what I'm saying? So, like, we get...
But then again, we don't even know that.
Well, yeah, I
We don't
mean,
speak about that.
yeah.
So
Hey.
Man, I ran into Tim Thomas a couple times. So,
Wow.
so who knows? J.R. Smith might have been right there.
Jesus.
But go ahead, my bad.
I'm sorry, Tim. But yeah, I mean, it's
Trotter.
good that
Yo, I'm about to shout out all the athletes, bro. I'm name dropping.
You
Let's
dry
go.
snitching, bro.
Let's
Stop
go.
it.
you know who
Stop
was
it.
there? The Bobby.
Well, I'm muting all them names out when I edit this, by the way. But I'm glad he got to the realization, and I think these athletes, you know, are getting to that realization quicker, right? Like you think about the set of athletes that we had before these guys, right? The athletes that, you know, played through the 80s and 90s and then exited in their careers in that time frame, and how many of them went broke, right? There's a whole ESPN 30 for 30 special
Right.
on athletes that just went broke, right? And now I think we're getting these athletes that are starting to understand this money a little bit better. They're starting to learn about it a little earlier.
I mean, they are. And
I'm telling you though, I think that the reason for that is the advancement of technology and specifically the internet. Because now, before you're talking about former like athletes who had private networks, right? You know, maybe like their teammate or something like that. Yo, you don't want to go spend your money. You want to do this. You want, and it was like maybe one or two people who could influence them. I'm not saying that that's the case,
Right.
but
Right.
I'm imagining. But now you can be an athlete, and now you can see what Devin Booker is doing over there, and now you can see what you know.
Yeah.
Julio Jones has got going on.
Yeah.
And now you're starting to understand, like, yo, it can be bigger than just
Right.
my personal, you know, who I know here in North Jersey or whatever.
Right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, like, these athletes still, to J.R. Smith's point, it's like he's still in a position to give back.
Oh, sure.
So and that's one of the other things I wanted to bring up is like, just because you're saying the things you should have done,
Right.
you still make more money just for your pension alone than most people make in a year anyway.
Sure.
You pocket watching?
Pocket watch.
He is kind of pocket watching right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Count his chips.
Listen, the best player in basketball, right, made $8 million. Okay, let's put that in perspective.
This year?
What he's talking about this
No.
week?
What year are you
That
talking
was
about?
his
this-
prime.
this
week?
That was his highest pay. Michael Jordan.
Who's that?
MJ.
Oh, I
Oh,
thought
you said the best player.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
not.
I thought we were talking about
sorry.
LeBron,
Yeah,
bro. I'm like,
I thought we was talking about LeBron, fam.
yo, come on, man.
We're starting out from Julius and Mirth. I'm just going to walk off this mic. I'm out. Knock this shit over.
But no, you're right. He was making $8 million until he made like $30 million in his last couple of
Right,
years, I
for
think, or
real,
something like that,
facts.
right?
But I'm just saying, like, in perspective of how the pensions work and things
Right,
like that.
right,
so
right.
these players, NFL, NBA, baseball, they have enough capital to still be involved in their communities to make a difference.
And that was
That's
one of the
what
other
I'm saying.
things that he was talking about. Because, I mean, that specific part, he was like, yo, just the money that I wasted
Right.
could have done so much, right? But then he did go on to say, he was like, yo, like, why when we in LA, we got to go to UCLA to use the gym. Why don't we just buy a gym?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's enough of us that need a gym in LA that we can get together and put a gym in the hood
Right.
and be able to use it. And now it's available to the rest of the community. Like, why don't we do that?
Right.
You know?
And they told him because we don't want to.
Which is crazy.
A whole other
No,
conversation.
that's a whole nother
Yeah.
conversation.
You know what I'm
bro.
saying?
Like, listen, you gotta understand. Just because you have an idea and an enlightenment,
Right.
don't mean that everybody's on that same wavelength.
Right. And therein lies part of the issue, right? Like when we talked about a football league, we talked about black players leaving the NFL, starting their own league, right? Who could bankroll it? Who would be the one to jump over there and say, all right, I'm gonna give you 2 years. Like, who has the mindset to do it? Like, this is part of the problem.
Right.
Like, you could tell somebody, yo, we have enough throwaway money to do something that could revitalize the neighborhood. And dudes is like, nah.
Yeah, I'd rather just
You know what
I'd
I'm
rather just
saying?
throw it
You
in
know
the
what's
air in the
crazy,
club.
man? It's like people view, I shouldn't say it, but like value is the equivalent of time to me. Like there's so much of it, but people don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because like there's so much value into these things that these people come up with that are being, debunked or just shot down because it's not their perspective.
Right.
And then you tend to believe sometimes.
Because people ain't trying to hear all that. Because not everybody's ready to make that commitment to their neighbors, bro.
Correct.
Right.
Like
you're right.
that's
You're
that's
absolutely
really
right.
what it comes down to.
Right.
Like I could build a youth center in the neighborhood, or I can fly out to Vegas with a couple of these broads.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? While I'm swindling somebody else to pay the bill. You know what I mean? And have myself a good time.
Sounds like a Tuesday.
Sounds like a Tuesday. Sounds like a Tuesday.
Yeah.
This is an ongoing conversation, but it was a good conversation, and I'm glad that we were able to catch it.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were able to talk about it a little bit because it goes to show a little bit of the inner workings of athletes and how if they can start chipping away at this mindset.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Listen, they can start by putting together some money to get some planes to get black folks out of Ukraine.
Facts.
We can start
African
right there.
students who are sitting there waiting,
Yeah.
And not left at the train
being
station.
turned down by the border patrol, being
Yeah.
blocked, getting.
Yep.
Well, we came full circle on this episode, didn't we?
I'm just saying.
Start from the bottom. We're back here.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going back into Russia versus Ukraine. All right. So
Can we go back into black people versus the world? Because really, that's what
B,
we're talking
relax.
about.
If you don't slow down, relax.
He's not wrong though.
All right. So for
White supremacy.
There it is. I haven't heard that in
There
like
it is.
17
There it is.
episodes.
we are next week, episode 70 is going to be the end of the third season of the From Earth podcast. We just want to let our listeners and viewers know.
Yeah.
Because after episode 70 is going to be the end of the third season, and we're going to start up a new season after that, and we're going to be good to go.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware.
We're gonna take a little break after 70.
I think we might take a little break, maybe a
week or
week or two or something like that. To get our things straight.
Facts.
And then come back hot and get into season 4.
Let's do it.
So, you know,
Let's do it.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, sir.
I know SO he takes his breaks no matter what. He don't care.
I hope Joe Rogan drops another N-word mixtape for us.
Bro,
in that time.
let's get it.
We need that.
Let's get
Yeah,
it.
bring it back.
That's content. That's material.
Facts.
I got nothing else for this episode. I think this was a really good one. I'm appreciative.
Yeah.
SO, we appreciate you opening up the lair
course.
to the crew, to the gang.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
Bro,
Now let's get out of here.
we got some cigars to hit.
Yes, sir. All right, y'all.
Black folks versus the world.
Well, this is Julius from Earth signing out. Peace.